Welcome to Negotiating Happiness, the show that helps you find happiness, success, and balance in your work and life. I'm Adriana Fiestro, your host for this journey into entrepreneurship and personal growth. We're broadcasting live on 107.7 and 105.3 FM in New Orleans as part of the United Public Radio Network. We explore the latest strategies, insights, and stories from successful entrepreneurs and experts. From managing stress to building a thriving business, we've got you covered.
Looking for stories that are fresh and new? Dark fantasy, humor, space exploration, time travel, cyberpunk, alternate history, and more. They're in the L. Ron Hubbard Presents Writers of the Future anthology. From 24 award-winning authors and illustrators, plus art and writing tips and bonus stories. L. Ron Hubbard Presents Writers of the Future. Buy your copy at galaxypress.com, Amazon, or wherever books are sold.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Negotiating Happiness. It is Monday, September the 25th, 2023. I can't believe we're almost halfway done. I mean, more than halfway, almost into the next year. We are broadcasting live today on the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. And if you want to see us on your big screen, we are also on Roku TV. Check out some of our other shows there. All you have to do is give us a search in the search bar. Today, I am here with the beautiful and professional Hasty. She is a mortgage agent, and I can't wait to introduce her to you guys. Hello, Hasty.
Hi, Adriana. That was such a nice.
How are you?
Thank you. How are you?
No worries. I was just going to go through what our summary was here so that we could let everybody know the kind of magic that you bring to our show today. In this episode, we'll catch up and talk all about how to get a mortgage when you are a business. You're going to let us know about the do's and don'ts of buying a house and so much more. If you guys don't catch this live or you can't finish the episode, you can catch us on Soundcloud, on YouTube, on pretty much any platform that you can think about. We will be on there. And I can't wait to dive in. So who is Hasty? Hasty is your trusted guide to securing the perfect mortgage, especially tailored for business owners, first-time home buyers, and much, much more. As a seasoned Mortgage Alliance professional, Canada's most trusted mortgage brokerage, Hasty specializes in helping entrepreneurs and business owners navigate the world of mortgages. She's coming on live, as you can see, to debunk some mortgage myths and to give us some important tips. With a wealth of expertise and an extensive network of over 60 lenders, some exclusive to brokers like Hasty, they have insights and options to make your dream of owning a home a reality. We will also touch on Hasty's journey as an entrepreneur and what happiness means to her. So don't miss this chance. And as always, guys, if you have comments, questions, anything constructive, feel free to send us a question through any of the comments on the platforms that we're on live, and we will do our best to feature your comment and to answer any questions. So here we are. Hasty, take it away. How are you this fine Monday morning?
I covered it all. I feel like
No, not even close. How are you this fine Monday morning?
I'm doing actually pretty good. I had a chance to start my day by chit-chatting with you before the show. So it was, and we always have fun. I love always. Whenever we chit-chat, and unfortunately we're both so busy that doesn't happen. But whenever we just get on a Zoom, I don't know if people know that, but sometimes we get on a Zoom and you do your own work and I do my work while we're chit-chatting, and it's a very, very, very relaxing, fun time.
Yes, you can tell that we're both entrepreneurs that work from home for the most part, because it's like having a coworker.
Yes, it's body doubling, right? It's funner. you know?
Yes, of course it is. Of course it is. And I mean, you have your coworker Killer, which is a sweet little puppy,
Oh,
right?
well, she's not my coworker. She's more of a manager.
Oh, your supervisor. Got it.
Supervisor,
I've
yeah.
got my supervisors over there. There's two of them just lounging around in cat form. Oh man. Yeah, no, it's this journey of ours is interesting, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you're also very social and I love that. I've attended a couple of Hasty's um events that she's put on, and you know, Hasty works with a lot of realtors and she is based out of Toronto, Canada.
Yes.
I've attended a couple of them and they're just so fun and so refreshing, and especially for people like me that work from home from their like dungeon slash basement. It's so great. It's so great to get out into the world.
You know, I'm glad that to hear that was the goal of those. I mean, another one is coming up soon, which you have to be there, obviously.
Yeah.
But it was the point
tell
of
us about
those.
it.
It was supposed to bring entrepreneurs together, where in an environment where you can create a relationship, but it's not that pressure of like a typical maybe like networking event where you just in there like make as much.
Yeah, I didn't need to bust out your 3-piece suit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
no, we told me
yeah,
people
no.
were like, oh, how should we dress? How are you like?
Right. And
How are you like? How are you?
Just so everybody knows, as
And you
you
know
can
what?
tell,
A lot of people came and it's so wonderful when we hear about it afterward. Is they created relationship that not were necessarily work relationship. They were just
totally
friends or whatever, right? And it's that's what's supposed to be. My manager wants to join us if you would like to.
Oh, wonderful. Your manager. Let's see. Oh,
Of
hello.
course. No, as soon as I get to the meeting,
Oh, hello, Killer. He's like, I need to be here.
Yeah,
so
she was
funny.
sleeping up to now, but then of course now she needs to be part of this.
Of course. I'm not even going to show you where my managers are. I think he's taking a nap. He's a terrible manager. He's taking a nap over there. He's a little old too, so you know.
No, he's trusting his employees. Like, no, I trained them well, but this one's still like, no, I still need to train you.
Yeah, watch your every move. Yeah. So, tell us a little bit about what it's like to work with people like me who are entrepreneurs and are potentially looking. First of all, the house market is crazy over here, and I hear the same thing from my friends down in the States. I was talking to a client, and she was telling me about like the state of Las Vegas, like not the state, but I'm saying the state of the like housing market, right? And it was just, we could have cried together and it would have been a completely normal reaction. You know what I mean? So tell us what it's like to work with entrepreneurs that are like, how am I going to be able to afford a house?
So it is one of my biggest passion, because my part of the job that I love is making that call and say, I have a solution for you. And one of the biggest misconception is that entrepreneurs think they cannot get qualification. They think they have to go straight to private, right? Whereas the funny part is that there are, I don't want to say more options, right? But different solutions. When you're employed, your income is your income. This is it. You see that there is solutions, but for entrepreneurs, depending on what type of business you have and what kind of income you have, how do you basically report your income? Are you incorporated? Are you sole proprietor? Or do you
because a lot of that will affect your taxes, right? So
exactly.
Yeah, so it depends, and it's so important to have somebody like you to navigate it, because you know what you're doing and you're not just going to say, you're not like one of those online calculators that are like, well, good luck to you,
No, I think we had that conversation with you. One thing I tell my clients, I'm like, I understand the urge of wanting to go online and put your numbers in those calculators, but those calculators are just like putting in Google that you have a sniffly nose, and next thing you know, you think you
have a brain tumor.
You have 2 days to live.
Right.
Right. It's just like that calculator doesn't understand your needs, wants, and long-term solution.
Yes.
And as also, if you're not in a business of mortgage yourself, if you haven't done mortgages yourself, even if you have many properties, because I have some people like, I have many properties, so I know mortgages. I'm like, no, believe me, the lenders themselves don't know enough, right? It's because it's that big, it's that, and things change constantly. And unless you're doing this every day, in and out, you're not going to know all the solution and options and everything. You're just going to know the basics that everybody else knows, that is on the news, that your neighbor talked about, which is fine. It's a great starting point. But then you might go try to do your own research or go straight to the bank, which I work with banks. They're great. But going straight to banks is that you have to understand they can only offer you what they have.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the solution might be out there, just that bank don't have. So if you're doing that, you might scare yourself out of like purchasing, or you might feel like, oh, I can't buy. There's no way. I mean, but there is solutions. Also, I tell people with my entrepreneurs, your urge is when you're doing your taxes is to deduct so you don't pay taxes. And I tell them, if you're planning to purchase at any point, which I think everyone should be purchasing, not just home to live, but investments, is that get your mortgage broker and your accountant in touch, because your accountant job is to save you money, and they don't know your long-term solution. And even if they know that you want to purchase a property, they don't know what you need to qualify.
Well, it's just not their job, right? At the end of the day, it's just not their job to make that happen for you. And before we move on from the topic of like, you can go straight to the bank, I just want to point out that what we see as the clients are what's in front of the curtain. But behind the curtain is you have these mortgage brokers that form relationships with all kinds of lenders, right? We don't have that ability. So even if you want to go do it on your own, it's not going to be the same because you don't have those relationships. And I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, those lenders let's be serious. Everybody has their favorites to work with, and people they don't like, or people that know that come through for them every time, or people that know that never bring them what they need, right? So then that's an advantage. If you get somebody that's good, like a good mortgage agent, they know how to tailor their specific applications and how they talk and what kind of documents to offer right away to kind of make sure that they're working within the parameters of that lender. As a client, I don't have that insight, right? So it's so important to have somebody who will go that extra mile for you to get that solution, because yes, at the end of the day, it's numbers, but it's also like, it's all risk evaluation, right? Like as a paralegal, when you learn why your job exists, it's because people at some point calculated risk very poorly, right? In those specific areas. But everything is the same. Like insurance is all risk calculation, mortgages are all risk calculation. Like, yes, profits are there, but because everybody has to eat. So profits are a given, right? But it's all about risk calculation. So there's a give and take. And if you don't have that right professional on your side, you're going to lose out.
Exactly. I mean, you also have to understand like the relationship build part. That I love how you touched on that one. It's a huge part of my business. I spend a good chunk of my business creating those extra relationships, not just with lenders, also with lawyers, with accountants, with like anything you can think of, appraisers. It's that time that I spend, that extra time that I spend to create those relationships allows me to be able to give the services that my clients much well deserve, right? Is the process of home buying, doesn't matter if you've done it one time or buy it 20,000 times, it can be stressful. You are investing and putting big chunk of money and asset, right? And you want it to go perfectly. And and as the process starts, even people who have done it many times, they realize, oh, it's not as like cookie cutter as you think. So like, stress can build up. So if I can take those stress off my client as much as possible, I will do that, right? I have called lawyers that I work very closely with. I've called them on weekend. I'm like, I need this done, and they do it on vacation. A lawyer that I work with, that you also know, vacation, done it. It's not because he doesn't like to relax. It's because I built a relationship with him that it allowed me to ask that, which means my client now doesn't have to stress about, oh no, where do I find a lawyer last minute? Because people actually, one of the thing is that they don't think about all the people.
I was just going to ask you that. I was like, can you give us a list of all the professionals that you may encounter from your journey of like your client wants to buy a house all the way to like the closing? Who are the professionals that you work with?
You're working with a realtor. So obviously a realtor, please use your realtor. Use all these professionals, right? Buying a home is not when you want to like penny pinch, right? You're working with a mortgage broker, obviously, right? Which with that becomes obviously the lender, the BDM, the underwriter, all the people that work with the mortgage broker. And then you work with your appraiser and also your inspector and your lawyer, right? And sometimes you have to work with two set of lawyers depending on the situation. And your final people who are going to help you with that is your movers.
Yes.
And this is a team of people who are going to be helping you to have your dreams and come true. And what I've seen a lot of times is that people don't actually think about other people. They start shopping immediately. And then a lot of times they don't even try to qualify, or they don't qualify themselves correctly. And also they go to a realtor first because everyone think, okay, I need to find a home first before I find the finances. No.
Can I tell you?
When you go shopping, you don't leave home and start shopping first and then go home and see how much money you have in your wallet.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. I love that analogy. You don't leave your wallet at home if you want to go shopping, and then
exactly, you don't leave it there and then not even look at inside of it how much you have. Go do your shopping and then be like, oh, let me just go get my wallet, and then you're like, oh damn, I didn't.
Can I tell you though how like I 100% agree, and because I'm going through this myself, it's like this is so recent for me and it's still happening that I'm like, yep. But it was so easy for my realtor to find me because I was just looking online I wasn't even sure what I was going to do. I was like, okay, I guess let's start looking at the market, like not with any intention to move forward on anything, but because they make it so easy now online for the realtors to get your contact information, they contact you first. So that's like one of the like struggles that you have to deal with. It's like, okay, that's great, but how do you know what your max is? Like, how do you know what your limit is, right? So I remember looking at your Instagram, and one of your posts was like pre-qualification. And I was like, that makes sense to me.
Exactly. And well, let me tell you something. Again, another misconception is that pre-qualification is that people, I ask them a lot of times, I'm like, oh, do you have your pre-qualified? Yep. Okay, please explain how you got pre-qualified, because it's that way I know how
I
if you're
know what
actually
you're about to
correct
say. I
or
know
not.
what you're about to say.
If you go anywhere, whether it's bank, broker, so if no one asks you for your documents or check your credit and they told you you are qualified for this much, that's not pre-qualification. Because
No,
I
it's
can just
not.
ask you right now how much you make. Most people don't know what the right answer to that is, especially as our
Right.
business owners. As a business owner, when you think of how much you make, you're thinking of your gross.
Yeah, I think of my sales numbers versus
Yeah,
and then you start thinking about it, but wait, I also pay HST, which is our tax, which is our
yeah,
like our federal tax. But then I also think about, but do you mean like what I made before expenses or before deductions, or does that include the HST credit? So like sometimes you get credits from the government because you also have to have expenses that pay
exactly.
tax on tax. So it's like there's so many questions, and but even if you have if you're employed, it's like, okay, but which line? Is it net? Is
Exactly.
it
Or
gross?
for
Like,
example, like
yeah,
have you as employed, have you received bonuses? So
right.
people count as bonus, like they say, oh, my income plus bonus. But if you only receive bonus for 1 year and now you're trying to buy a home, guess what? We cannot use that bonus. We have to
Yeah.
remove that bonus. You have to at least receive it for 2 years.
Right. And some people don't think that bonuses are part of your income, even though they don't realize that you do get taxed for it. So obviously, Hasty would know these
Exactly.
rules of,
Yeah.
but you have to have shown at least a pattern of receiving these bonuses versus why does it not count? Because I get taxed by the government as income, as taxable income, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just so many things that you
There's so
don't
many
know.
things. And also like credit, right? People tell me, well, my credit is good. Can you just tell me? I have a good credit. I have a 700 credit. Oh, fantastic. But a lender is not just looking at the
No.
score. They're also looking at the report, right?
Yeah. And is it true that I was told this by somebody a long time ago and it kind of stuck in the back of my head? Is it true that you have like your credit score and your lending score? Like how there's two?
So there are actually several different, if on your credit score, there's
So
several
more
different
than two.
scores.
Okay.
There's also Equifax and TransUnion. They are
Right, right,
different,
right.
right? But there is there is a credit score, and here's another great thing: if you check your credit score as a consumer, your own credit score, your credit score is going to show differently from the one when I pull it.
Yeah, I found that out with you actually. Yeah, I found that out. I was like,
Exactly.
I have terrible credit. And you're like, you're fine.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I wouldn't be able to tell you why, because even people in Equifax don't know why. Is just how the equation is, and nobody know what the equation is.
No offense to Equifax, but when I think of Equifax, I think of like, in cartoons where they show like the big bad pharmaceutical company. That's what I think of. I'm like, Equifax doesn't even know how it runs and who runs it. If you ask Equifax who runs it, they don't know,
They
you
don't.
know?
They don't. And this is why I tell people, I was like, okay, but look, but have an eye on your not credit score, but credit report, because the amount
Right.
of times they make a mistake,
That's a good tip.
but also the length that it takes to fix that mistake.
Like
For
the length of
example,
time. Yeah. Yeah, I've heard of that too, where they add, and another thing too that I noticed personally is they never used to include student loans that were like government facilitated. And like, I don't know when they changed it, but now they do. So if
Mhm.
you're behind on like student loans, that's definitely like a problem, right? That now they
What kind of
include on
student
there.
loan? Are you talking about getting
Like,
student loan from a bank or student like from like
like federal.
federal student loan?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Like,
Yeah, like they never used to do that, now they do. Or like you said, I've heard of people being like, I've never taken out this credit card, and they don't find out that their identity was stolen until it's like 3 years in arrears, you know what I mean, of payments.
I,
It's really crazy to me.
I mean, and the length that it takes to correct it, and that itself, it can affect. Like if you're coming last minute to trying to figure all this out, right? It's just you're
Yeah,
putting
you're not
your.
going to have
I mean, I
time.
understand sometimes things happens and you do have to take care of things last minute.
Mhm.
But if you can, try not to. Try look things ahead of a time.
Right.
Even people who are renting, at some point of your life you're going to purchase.
Right. Right. So
You
keep
don't
an
need
eye
to
out on
wait
it.
until like 2 months before to get in contact with professional. Get it 2 years before, because realistically we need your 2-year average. Let's figure
Yeah.
this out now, right?
Yeah, that's what people don't understand. It's like you need to go back a certain amount of time
Mhm.
to get that information. But when I worked at a law firm in my previous professional life, and I worked in civil litigation, so we dealt with quite a few files where these closings fell through. So people were suing each other because things went just so wrong, right? And almost every single time, it was with people that bought first, worried about qualifying later.
Yeah.
So like you'll always see
Mhm.
private mortgages because nobody would approve them for a $3 million
Mhm.
house, right? And then lo and behold, even the private lender, then something happens, they fall through, and now they're in this like
Yeah.
lawsuit that is going on for 5 years, ready to be kicked off the docket at the courthouse because it's taking so long, because all they're doing is going back and forth with their lawyers. I hate to break it to you, but that is thousands and thousands of dollars that
Mhm.
are now being put into this lawsuit
Yeah.
instead of like doing a very simple thing, is to get your numbers first, then go shopping,
Yeah.
right? Like it's like a lot of this could have been avoided. A lot of this could have been, and there was some where you could tell that they did not engage the right professionals, and those professionals made mistakes, and we could pick out the mistakes. We, as
Yeah.
not the people in the industry, when we would do our reviews and stuff, because you have to be able to respond to these claims like legally, right? We do the reviews and we were able to pick out the mistakes of where, like when on the timeline, what happened, to be like, that was like a huge red flag. That was a
Yeah.
huge red flag, right? So it's so important to try to be able to trust and really know the professional that you're engaging with, right?
Mhm.
So
Exactly. Yeah, and that's like referral usually comes from, right?
yeah.
Like most of the people that I work with are referred to me from people who already worked with me, whether it's a
Yeah.
previous client or another professional. They
It's the
understand.
best marketing. That's the best marketing that you can
It is.
get.
It is. And that's the thing, though. I feel like it's not just in my industry; it's in most industry. Is that you don't understand your client when you're done with whatever providing with that service. It's not the end of the line. It's
Right.
only the end of the line if you treat it that way, because you just spend this whole time creating that relationship. The client can come back. The client can send you referral.
Yep.
So you don't see me saying bye-bye to my clients after closing.
Right.
They hear from me
Right.
constantly.
Which is important.
Because
So
it's the thing is just because I
oh, are we
sorry, I
getting a
think
little
I
bit of
froze.
feedback? Oh, there we go. Yeah. No, I'm just thinking, can you tell us a little bit about like what kind of client experience you give your clients after the house closes? Like what are the sort of things that you check in on?
It really depends on each case. If
Just
if it's
examples, right?
Yeah, so most general thing is I do call the client 30 days after, or whatever their payment structure is for their first payment that's come out. I call them to make sure that they are everything's went well. If there's anything I
Mhm.
can do, um, obviously I called after closing, congratulate the client and ask if everything went well, if there's anything I can do. And since I hear about it, since I make sure to call the client's lawyer and everyone and choose myself and make sure that they understand that they can involve me if anything goes
Off. Yeah.
sideways. because again, the relationship I create with the underwriter, other professional might not have that chance. So I can ask for things that I might not be able to ask by other people, right?
Right.
And then after that, I will definitely get in touch with the client every 3 to 6 months. Depending on a client's situation, I will definitely give them an update. And if there's a client where we had to put them in a certain product, if they couldn't qualify right away for that product, right after the closing, they put into this like plan of how to get to that point that they want to be point. So I'm constantly calling to make sure everything that was on the plan are being reached. If there's anything changing, we need to maneuver the plan right away rather than wait until last minute and find out like, oh, okay, so this debt needs to be paid off. And now we are at the renewal time and it didn't get paid off.
Right.
So,
so you're not just like, well, I did my job, end of the line here.
No, because that's not the end of the line. I just help the client to, it's like being a parent. When you birth it, the job doesn't end. When they go off to college and they get married, the job doesn't end. The job ends.
Like you're super proud, but you still have to do some maintenance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you still have to make sure that everything's A-okay. And if not, figure out things ahead of time rather than wait last minute. So, yeah.
That's hilarious.
Especially if your client has a certain plan. And rarely ever I hear clients say, nope, I want to buy this house and live in it forever. Even them, I'll call a month later to say, you know what? We're thinking about like maybe in 2-3 years we'll switch to this. I'm like,
interesting. Interesting. Yeah. So we are just about halfway through here, everybody. So if you're just tuning in, you're listening to Negotiating Happiness on the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. And some of our shows are on Roku TV as well. So give us a quick search and you will find us there. I am here today on Monday, September 25th with Hasty, and she is a mortgage agent and telling us all of the do's and don'ts about qualifying for a mortgage as a business, as an entrepreneur, and she will share some of her golden nuggets of wisdom of how her entrepreneurial journey got her to where she is. Anybody that's listening in, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them. Please be constructive. And also, if you just want to say hi, we'll feature your comment. And if you want to join into the discussion, definitely type away. And yeah, I've actually already pasted in the comments where you could find Hasty's website. And also if you wanted to connect with her on Instagram, she has a super fun account there with where you get really good information, but also you get to see all of the events that Hasty puts on. And I don't think we mentioned it earlier, but I think one of your events was actually for a cause. Like you hold them, like I think it was for a charity, one of them.
Both of them were.
Both of them, yeah. So like it's not just for like the sake of networking. Hasty's putting her heart and soul into doing good things at the same time. So definitely, if you have a link for us, we would love to put it in here for anybody that's listening and is local. Hasty is in Toronto, Ontario, in Canada. So, and for those that are our friends in New Orleans and the stateside, keep up with her on Instagram. Okay. Excuse me. So we've gone through the whole, like, this is why you need these professionals, and this is how they work together, and don't go on Google and think that you're going to get the same results from a mortgage calculator or from a bank than you would from somebody who has like over 60 lenders in their pockets and quite a few relationships with their underwriters and lenders in general. So what about, tell us some fun things as like obviously as much as you can say, what are some of the disasters that you've encountered that we could all learn from not to do when trying to qualify for a mortgage?
Do we have enough time?
I just saw your eyes light up. I loved it.
I'm like thinking like 100 memories coming.
Just bring them on.
One of the things that I actually have I'm creating like these funny, I'm trying to make my Instagram a little bit lighthearted at the same time,
Yeah.
send out messages that could be like, hey, please stop. Don't do that.
Please stop. For the love of
Yeah.
God, please stop.
One thing is that when you purchase a property, especially if your first one, or you like finally bought that property that is your dream property or any property, I know it's exciting and you want to now all of a sudden go buy your expensive car to match the house and change all the furniture. But for sake of yourself and me, a realtor, everyone, please don't do it before the closing. You have to understand when you qualify on a situation that you were at a time with the credit score and the amount of debt that you have, right? And then we get I'm really good at getting exceptions, and but I get exceptions by not just looking all pretty. I do have to say,
are you sure? Because you're fabulous. I love it.
I know. I have to tell the client, I tell the lender why they should. I'm like, look at this client, so wonderful. Look, up to now they spend their money so well, and then
yes.
but one thing people don't understand is that the lender will check your credit on the last day as well while you're signing with your lawyer, right?
Yeah.
Because they want to know everything's so kosher, right?
Yeah.
And then I don't want to get a call from the lender saying, hey, by the way, we no longer can give the mortgage because your client just signed himself into a $30,000 car payment. Now they don't qualify anymore. Or, hey, your client spending all this money on furniture on their credit card when they just have signed up for this huge debt. That doesn't look like someone who's going to be responsible.
Yeah.
Because realistically, unless the deal is funded, if the client, the lender, and you as a client have a right to cancel the deal, and the lender has the same right. And if they look last minute and they see, oh no, this client all of a sudden buying $3,000 fancy chairs, might not budgeting well and might not be able to pay the mortgage.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not always so black and white, and because they literally have access to everything, right? Like they have your tax forms, they have your employment or business information, they have your business activity. So if you are an entrepreneur, they can see. Like, it would also be weird to me if one year I was claiming like, I don't know, like meals and entertainment was like $300, but the next year I'm all of a sudden claiming like $10,000, right? It's like, oh, where are you getting this or office expenses, right? Like if my office expenses are all of a sudden like through the roof, that's probably a concern for them, right? Like how has your overhead changed?
As long as there's explanation behind it, it's fine. But if there is not, then the lender just looks at that as either the client is not financially responsible, or numbers are not reflecting correctly. Like there's something not correct, right?
It's off. Yeah, it's off.
Exactly. Another thing is, I don't know who out there put it into the universe, but there's a belief people think that, oh, I need to increase my credit score. I need to show that I'm very responsible. Let me close a whole bunch of credit card that has a whole bunch of history on it last minute, because that will drop your credit score. Because you have to understand, when you close a credit card, you also erasing all the payment history.
Right.
they still can see it, but the history just left your credit score, and it will immediately
Right.
drop your credit score. And there is a minimum credit score to qualify for each lender and each product. And also, if you do that and your credit score drops, it dropped, it doesn't matter anymore. You just don't qualify anymore, right?
Yeah. So this is super important because I remember you and I having this conversation. Can you tell us what you told me? I had no clue, and I'm like your typical like millennial that wasn't taught finances in
Mhm.
school, right? So this isn't my forte, but I feel like I've tried to read enough to understand it myself, but without you I would have never known this. So tell this is so super important. If you are trying to keep your credit score up and increase it,
Mhm.
what's the lending situation that you should look at? Like, what's the number of things that you should have that are revolving? I remember you were telling me about this.
So
So
you need,
tell us, this is gold. If you're going to listen to anything today, this is it.
yes, this is this a minimum requirement of what is called is two revolving account. Revolving accounts are credit cards, line of credit, anything that you can pay and spend and pay and spend is revolving, right?
Yep.
And that's a minimum two that each have 2 years of history at least, right?
Right.
And there is good debt and a bad debt. So things like mortgage, car loan, even though my mortgage side it doesn't love it, but it's still good. It considered good debt because it increases, means that another institution qualified you to go
Yes.
into a pretty big, you know,
Commitment. Yeah.
yeah, a loan. So
Yeah.
these are good that they will increase your, but then you have to also be careful, right? Your debt to income qualification. If you're making $50,000 a year, but then you just right now have $30,000 car, your income to debt qualification now is not that great.
The ratio, right? Like the ratio is
The
off.
ratio,
Yeah.
exactly. And then
Yeah.
and also the thing is like, don't open up if you don't open up store credit cards. Like when you go to debate, it's so hard when
Mm.
they say you get 30% off if you apply for
Or
a
like
credit card.
Costco, because our neighbors in the South have Costco too, right? Like the
Exactly.
MasterCards. Yeah.
Unless there's a reason behind it. If you opening up all these credit cards from different store, it just makes you look like you depend on credit cards in order to pay for your stuff. Means that you are not financially
Like
responsible.
stable.
Yeah, you're not
Stable.
responsible.
Yeah.
You're not really thinking. So if you're not like a contractor and you have a Home Depot and Canadian Tire credit card that you keep using, why are you using? Your job is not related to it. You have no
Right.
need. So try to open it with your banks. Like you have it two, like yeah, a Capital One is good. Whatever you bank with, have a line of credit and credit card with there. However, if you already have a credit card, doesn't matter if it's favorable or not, and you have a whole bunch of history on it, don't close it. Don't
Mhm.
close it. And I know they tell you close this, close that. No, don't close it. Even when I do debt qualification for my clients, where basically we refinance the house to pay off debt because it will give them cash flow, I will make sure to let the client pay them off, do not close. I make sure that the lawyer understands, don't close it, just pay them off, right? And then if you don't want to use it because you don't want to, you're closing it because you don't want to use it, you don't want to put that on, cut up your card, put it in a block of ice, put it in a freezer, but don't close the account. You're going to
Yeah.
remove all that history and drop your credit score.
Yeah, that's
And
funny.
it's
That happens a lot with family law, where you'll
Mhm.
literally have it's a little bit different, I guess, because you have like joint accounts with people, but sometimes it's let's say it's a debt, like a line of credit, it's only one person, but after you pay it off, it'll say something like, and then account will be closed. And I'm like, why would you close it, especially if that person's name is off of it? Like, keep
Mhm.
it, because then
Yeah.
all that, you're right, all of that history then gets to stay with your credit. But that
Mhm.
happens a lot in law because what they see it as, so it's so funny, like your domain is like the credit, like minding the credit score, but the lawyer's domain is keeping you low risk. So yes, it's low risk for you day to day because it's not revolving and you're not going to keep putting yourself in debt irresponsible, right?
Yeah.
But on your side, you're saying, well, that might be true. That's not beneficial to your credit score, right?
It's not.
So
It's not.
this is why don't expect your lawyer or your accountant to do the job of somebody that's trying to actually qualify you for the thing that you want, right?
Exactly. And that's the thing though. And you know what? The one thing you touched so beautifully on it, that you're right. It's not because people just don't give a damn about their like money and they just spend it however. It's because we were not educated on this. I myself, right, truly stopped learning all this stuff when I went into finances myself, because now it's part of my job to learn, to make sure that I can, help my client, right? Before that, I thought just like anybody else, close a credit card and then your credit score increases. No, it doesn't. Right. And I truly hope that the newer generation have this an experience, because for us it was a bit of a, I'm sorry.
It was no. Go ahead.
Yes. Yeah. For us, it was a bit of a curving,
learning curve. Yeah.
Yeah, learning curve. And I feel like it was different from our parents because it was a different time.
You mean you didn't need the capital that you need now just to function? Interesting.
No.
We could have a whole show on what it takes to buy a house now versus what it did 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. I can't even. And it's not just inflation. It's just literally the cost of things it's just skyrocketed past inflation. We're so far past inflation. We're like in another solar system, where the rate is.
And it's interesting to me when parents say, well, when we were your age, we had a house and a car and 3 kids and one person worked. I'm like, yeah, because you lived in a different market. A person worked for $1,000. Your mortgage was my same amount of my cell phone bill right now.
Yes. Yeah, like it's wild to me. Like, but even just so when I came here to Canada, when we immigrated, my parents were able to buy a house with a $5,000 down payment.
Yeah.
And this was only in 2003. Okay.
Yeah.
We are in 2023. So exactly 20 years ago.
Yeah.
You got a house, which, by the way, to me, it seems like yesterday. Like, I don't even, 20 years ago seems like, oh my God. But because I just have such vivid memories of this.
Yeah.
$5,000. Yeah. What can you do with $5,000 today, Hasty? Tell us.
You can survive for a month.
Barely.
Honestly, and even parenting is very different. Like, our parents didn't have to worry about the amount of expenses and activities that the kids have now, where parents have to pay for.
I know.
Our parents did not need to worry about paying for an expensive cell phone, and it was a different time. So you can't compare. I know.
And if you deny your child that, yeah, sure, there's age appropriate things, right? But if you say, well, I never had a cell phone, okay, but they're also going farther without us. They're also going on planes and going on school trips and going on things. Would you be comfortable with them not having that cell phone? Because I can tell you, the moment that I got a cell phone when I was 18, right? My brother, who's only 10 years younger than me, got a cell phone way before that because my parents needed to be in contact with him, right? Yeah. So there are just certain things that are safer and are more in the name of progress, right? You do it. So you can't just say that's fine, then don't. I hate it when people say you need to stop going to Starbucks. That's why you can't afford a house. I was like, $5 a day will not even make up for a quarter of the inflation that's happening. So don't tell me about that. Don't tell me about that.
Exactly. I truly believe sometimes we can get, especially I myself, as it's not easy to be self-employed. You become everything of your own company, especially at the beginning. Yeah. So it's easier to order Uber Eats here and there and not realizing how much you spend. But also our parents didn't have to work even a business owner don't have to work to the point that if we just were living in a different economy, we're living in an economy, in a world of technology where everything moves so fast that if you don't keep up with the same speed, you left behind. So you feel like you need all this extra time. These extra
to your
times
detriment.
yeah,
It's
you
to
need
your
to
detriment. Yeah.
exactly. That means for
Yeah.
this extra time is going to cost you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, totally. It's like I look at my mom sometimes, and like this was just the way that the cards were, given to her. She's very young, like, so she's not like, it's not like she doesn't like she's too old to do any of this, but she never had the opportunity to learn like how to be on a computer and how to like function really well on computers and whatnot, right? But she could like design a wedding dress with like with like 6 layers in her sleep. So from scratch, right? Like with papers, she'll make her own patterns, whatever. So like her brain works that way, but unfortunately, she just never had that with computers. So what are you going to say now to me? Like, no, you shouldn't buy your kid like a computer, or no, they can't go and experience this in tech or whatever, but no, don't do that, because now she sees how hard it is to try. Like she can't really do the things that she wants to do sometimes because it requires a certain level of knowledge and experience, right? So you can't just say, well, I didn't need that. That's great, but that's not the life that we live today, right? Like it's just not it. So we have a couple minutes left, and we could probably complain about this forever, and I love it. But tell me, what is it about you being an entrepreneur and what you do that makes you happy? Or what are the things that you do that your lifestyle allows you to do in order to be happy?
In my career itself, I have a very much problem solver brain. I get a very joy out of problem solving, and my career allows me to do that day and night, especially working in this market, working with a lot of self-employed people. I enjoy that. That keeps me going, and when I get like solutions, really making that call to my client and say, I have a solution for you. You actually are able to buy a house. It's the happiest thing that makes me, right? I mean, everything else in between it, yeah, it can be stressful, but that's what makes it going. In my own personal, because it has to be balanced.
Yeah.
Obviously there's the typical answer of like, yeah, my family, the fact that I don't know, like killer, it's a huge part of my joy, obviously.
Of course. But
Right?
I want to know, like, for you, like, what makes your
Yeah,
heart
but for
full
me,
aside from the normal stuff?
yeah. So like, okay, a fun fact: I studied psychology in university, especially abnormal psychology, and I have such a passion about that. And every second I get, I read what's self-help book, but I really look at the psychologist part of it, and I implement those in my life, and I like really search in my brain to see the differences. And when I see those differences, I'm like, oh, like that's actually her. I really enjoy that. It
That
just
is
gives
such
me weird
that is
energy.
such a I laugh because I do that, and I'm told that that's a neurospicy brain thing. Not everybody's able to do that,
Right.
right?
Right. So from one ADHD,
To another,
everyone's
yes.
like, oh my God, ADHD, that sucks. I'm like, no.
Well, there's good
Like,
and bad. Like, you're able to discern patterns so much easier. So much
yes.
easier. Yes.
Yes. And it's like,
Agreed.
I love that. People like, oh, sometimes when I say, oh, I have ADHD, like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, no, I wouldn't have it any other way. Yeah, maybe sometimes 50,000 stuff goes through my brain and I can't stop it. But
Yeah. It's like all the tabs open in your brain. And you're like, oh my God, you're
exactly. But
slowing
I
me
have one of
down.
the funnest brain ever. And I
Yeah.
really like how I can, and that's probably why I love the solution solving part of my
Yes.
business. Because
Yes.
for me, I put the picture together and I see like things
It's a
and I'm like,
puzzle.
oh,
It's a
like this is
puzzle.
how we do.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love that.
I can totally relate. It's a puzzle. Same with me. I do like solutions for operations, right? It's like, oh, you have that problem. Let me think about it. I'll get you something, like I'll fix it. Yeah, I totally. That's so fun. What do you do for fun though? Like, what do you do when you like step away from all the, because I was going to say, what do you do when you turn off your brain? But that's not possible when you have
No,
ADHD.
my brain.
So what do you do when you like physically remove yourself from this room and force yourself to do something else? Because that's me too.
For me, obviously the typical, like I like the gym and stuff, but then I read a lot of book, and if I like, this is like maybe 1% of my bookshelf over here.
Okay.
There's so much. I also have a book club in my
What? I didn't know
brokerage.
this.
Now we actually opened it to everyone.
Oh.
So whoever likes to join, please DM me. You can join.
Yes.
And this is exactly how we do it. It's instructed that way, I guess by me, because I run it, is that we vote on a book, mostly a lot of like psychology or self-help book or business books or all that. And then it's like a mindset kind of group
development. Yep.
Yeah. So we read a chapter, we come back, we learn, and we like, hey, what did you like the best? What do you want to implement in your, and then we give each other a task, right? And then the following, we do that, and the following week, we like, okay, how did it go? Are you going to continue putting this into your life? And then we come back later on, like at the end, to see who would stick with what the longest, and then see how so
the follow through. I love that. It's the follow through, not just like I read it, now it's going to the back of my head. Oh
yeah.
I know we have like a minute left, but I brought this up in one of the other episodes. Have you guys read Burnout yet?
The what?
Burnout.
Not yet. No, but it's on the list.
You will love it. Because you and I have the same neurospicy brain. It's called Burnout. And it's also on Audible. So if you want to listen to it when you're driving or something, like this is an easy read for people who have a hard time like finishing, let's say.
Yeah.
I really love it. One of my other guests had this on the list for us, and it was such a great
I
recommendation.
I will definitely read it. But here's my question. I know that you're supposed to ask all the question. The time is almost up.
No, it's okay.
From the way you like to say neurodivergent, spicy,
neurospicy. Yeah.
How do you deal with burnout? Because I know
that's okay. Well, now because of this book, okay, it's by Kate. Hold on, I'll tell you. Where is it? It's Emily Nagoski and Amelia Nagoski. I think one is a PhD and one's a master's. There's two sisters that wrote this book, and they made me very aware that I wasn't completing the cycle of stress. Yeah. So that is what brings in the burnout. So the way that I try to now, it's like, okay, I'm really upset. So now I need to go complete the cycle of stress. So for me, it used to be working out, but it's not so much now that I'm a mom. So now I got to go and intentionally like go take a walk, clear my head, complete it, leave it in the past, move on. Like it got me thinking about all of the times that we get so upset and so wrapped up into our own lives that we don't see the end of it because we never actually complete it. So it's like your body, your physical, like on top of the emotional side, but your physical body holds on to all of this stress. So I have to move. I have to move. This is going to sound really funny, but like I sing in the car, like loud, get it out. Like, it's so fun. It's so fun. You just have to find the way that it works for you. And in this book, they do such a good job of having different characters show what their cycle is. And there's women, and it's so funny because they deal with very real 2023 problems, like women in careers, moms and sisters, and like things that would affect all of us as women and how we deal with it and why these things are happening. So I try to now think about it. Did I complete the cycle of stress? If not, what am I doing to get my body and mind to get there? Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Like it used to be when I was a teenager, I did judo, right? I did not realize how much the help that was, the release, the sweating it out, the like, I feel like that's why I never had a hard time. So I'm pretty sure I've had ADHD for like since I've known, but I didn't really realize it until like last year when I talked to my doctor and whatnot. So I will say that is the crappiest part of it, is like I didn't realize it. And
Beauty of being a woman, that's one of the things. Women are
right.
They don't get
Right.
diagnosed early enough.
Right.
Yeah, I got diagnosed in grade 10, but I didn't start really taking care of it or taking it seriously until last year.
Yeah, do you want to know why? Because we don't present like boys.
Yeah.
So we are not disruptive. So it's not something that needs to get dealt with. But in reality, it's up here and you're like having such a hard time doing things that it prevents you from functioning properly. So that is the only thing that was hard for me, is not knowing why I was the way I was. But now that I know, I've put in like these different like strategies in place that can help work with it rather than against it. Right?
Oh my God. One thing you just said, and that was like, it's a thing that I constantly think about, is that I went through life always constantly feeling different.
Or less than.
Know why I'm the way I am.
Yeah.
And then just recently I start like, I'm like, oh my God. So good now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but no, for me, it's also like exercise. Oh, did I get cut out?
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah. But for me, it's also like dancing. I used to dance when I was a kid. I was dance class and I stopped. And then recently I go back to it and it's just like,
we just need to like continue to work on ourselves. And I think that's a really big thing that we push to the side when we become adults. Right. And we just need to remember that we did those things for a reason. Like our parents kept us busy for a reason. It gave us an outlet, right? It gave us an outlet of like, get it all out and learn something, be constructive about everything, right? Because you could easily go the other way where you're just like picking up really bad habits, right? But I love that whole mindset idea of your book club. And I hope everybody goes on your Instagram and checks you out.
Yes.
And if you guys have any questions, if you leave them in the comments, we will be able to answer them after the show as well. And just remember, all these go into the archive, so you'll be able to hear this episode. So bookmark it if you haven't had a chance to listen to it. Thank you so much for coming on, Hasty. It was such a pleasure.
This was so fun. It was so fun.
I'm so glad. Well, you can come back on in a couple months and wow us again with all of your life-saving tips.
100%. I would love to.
Yeah.
I would love to. I was nervous about it, but after this, I'm like, no, I'm coming back.
It's just me and you. It's fine. There's nothing to be nervous about.
We've done this before. It wasn't recorded though.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, darling.
And thank you all for tuning into the show. And thank you to everyone in the chat room. And a big thank you to the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network. Thank you, New Orleans, for listening to us live on your FM airways. And thank you to everybody that tunes into SoundCloud and YouTube and Spotify and all of those big platforms. We really appreciate you. We will catch you guys next week. And I believe that we actually will be having a new show as well. I can't give you guys too many details, but we're in the works. And she's also a female host. She's going to be she's going to be on the network and she's an entrepreneur. So I'm super excited that she's joining me in the lifestyle category on the network. Okay. Have a wonderful day, everybody.
Thank you.